Welcome to From the Pastor's Heart, where faith, wisdom, and real life experiences come together to inspire and uplift. I'm Pastor Patrick Reed, and I'm thrilled to have you here with me today on this journey of reflection, encouragement, and spiritual growth. In each of these episodes, we'll dive into the core of what it means to live out our faith with authenticity and compassion. Whether you're looking for practical advice, profound insights, or just a little encouragement to get you through the week, you're in the right place. We'll be hearing from our pastors and other leaders in the church who are living out their faith in a remarkable way. Their stories and their struggles and triumphs will be a glimpse into the heart of our church that is driven by love, prayer, and grace. So let's grab a cup of coffee, find your favorite spot, and let's explore what it means to walk through this journey together.
Good morning and welcome to another edition of the Pastor's Heart. So good to have you guys with us today. We're very excited about this week. We have just gotten back on Monday from our trip to Africa, to Kenya, Africa with the church. And it was a wonderful blessing for us to get to go to that. And we're going to be having a Sunday night service recap on June the 6th. And our whole team's going to be able to share everything that they need to share, want to share about the trip to Africa. And then also, yesterday, our second team of missionaries back to Guatemala left. And they're in country and arrived safely, and we thank God for that. So what's on my heart today is missions. And, so there was some time of contemplation. We had planned these mission trips last year and had already paid for many of the flights and the cost that it takes to get to Africa and to Guatemala. And the teams have worked very hard. They're raising funds and things like that to not only to pay for the trips, but also to be able to help minister there in country. And of course, in all of these mission trips, children are a big part of it. As in any society, whether it's our country or a third world country like Guatemala, children end up taking the brunt, if you will, of the bad decisions of governments and parents and people. They end up suffering quite a bit because they're at the very bottom of the social scale of any country is the children. And yet they're the most dependent, of course, on their parents and on the government. If the parents are not able or not around or don't exist anymore, the government has to pick up and try to take care of the children. So a lot of times our mission teams, they're always trying to do things for the children. Guatemala is a big focus on children in a school there that missionary Mike and Mary Bruce started, is to try to give those children a start at education. The education system in Guatemala is not like it is even in Kenya, but both of those countries have extreme problems with education. And government-sponsored education, and how much they'll do and how long they'll do it for. We become so accustomed to children going into pre-K and going all the way through high school and their senior year of high school and on to college, but that's not the case in those countries. In those countries, it's very difficult. And so sometimes they don't give them schooling beyond the 5th grade and things like that. And in some cases, they don't have any school at all. And so it's always been a burden on our teams to try to, especially in Guatemala, help those children, sponsor some of those children. But it reminded me of some of the reasons why we go. And we went primarily on this trip to Kenya as a fact-finding trip in order to start building relationships with the Kenyan people, get to know the people, how the systems work there in Kenya, how missionaries work there in Kenya through GOA and David Manyari. And so it was a real interesting trip for us to learn many things, and we had great opportunities to interact with the kids. But the question always comes up that when they're there, the needs of all of these countries that we have missionaries in the United States going to from many, many different denominations and churches, the needs far outweigh any one church's ability to meet those needs. It's just like it is in the United States. In most of the counties of the United States, we have homeless people. We have people that have limited incomes, children that get limited meals. Most of the meals they get is from the school systems. And even during the summer, our school systems offer food at different locations during the summer because some of the children in America, the only real meal they get in a day is from the school systems. And the reason we did those meals in school systems is it increases the attendance of the children in schools. And I'll tell you about that and how that exactly is replicated in Kenya and some of the issues that they have at the schools in Kenya. But first, because the needs are great, I wanted to go to the scriptures for just a moment. This is something that we don't preach a lot about. We talk a lot about it during our mission services and stuff, but it's something I want you to contemplate in your personal life and in your Christian life. If you've never been out of the country to a third world country of any kind, you really can't grasp and understand the differences, the stark differences between what we take for granted in this country and what people are doing without in the masses of other countries. And we can't grasp that. Now, I know we can't help everybody, but we can help somebody. And so we have been very selective at Crane Eater about selecting our missions activities. And we've kind of right now, as far the whole church, we support 2 mission activities right now as a whole church. And one is GOA Africa, Kenya, Africa, and the other one is Guatemala with Mike and Mary Bruce. Now, the reason we do that is because there's so many needs that we would become so fractal in what we're doing that we would not be able to do very much to help any one person if we're helping too many or trying to help too many at one time. So we have to be selective. And we're going to have meetings after we learned a lot of things in Kenya. We're going to be having some meetings with the mission teams and also the council and to try to identify some of the major projects that we think we want to work on to help people in Kenya and in Guatemala. And we're going to be equal in how we try to approach those 2 missions. But let me just take you to James chapter 2. And in James chapter 2, beginning with verse 14, James just touches on this. Now, the focus of what James is talking about here is not really the needs of people in the world, but it's really about our faith. Now, our faith, it's a very deep subject in Christendom, is talking about Christian faith. What is it? How does it work? Is it just a personal faith? Is it a external faith? How does that work? And how does God look at that? How does Jesus Christ look at our faith? Now, we know he had a soft spot for the children. Suffer the little children to come unto me, for such is the kingdom of God. He had a soft heart for children because he knew that many of the things they were suffering was not their fault, but it was the sins or the faults or the decisions of parents and governments and rulers like the Romans. But he loved the children. And in James chapter 2, he kind of touches on this activity of your faith, what you say as a Christian, and our deeds. So let's read what he says. What good is it, my brothers, if a man claims to have faith but has no deed? Can such faith save him? Suppose a brother or a sister is without clothes and daily food. Now notice he says, suppose that a brother or a sister is without clothes and daily food, having food every day. And if one of you says to him, go, I wish you well, keep warm and be well fed, but does nothing to help meet his physical needs, what good is it? What good is it? And in the same way, his faith itself, by itself, without deeds, if it's not accomplished by action, is dead. Let me tell you, on our trip, both in Guatemala and in Kenya, our teams gather together for breakfast in the mornings. They get up in the morning early enough to where we can have breakfast and devotions together. And we did that every day that we were on the mission field. And Brother J.C. Coots brought one of our first devotions that we had there in country. And his devotion was profound. And it impacted us for the whole rest of the week. Now, everybody's devotions were absolutely great, and I can't take the time today to tell you about each one of those, but maybe over time we can discuss some of them. But they were wonderful. But JC's kind of set the course for a whole mission trip, and I know he was profoundly impacted by this trip. And you'll hear him talk more about that when we have our recap on June the 6th p.m. service. But his whole thing was about putting faith in action. And he had always been one that thought that, well, all we need to do is send the money to these people. The missionaries know better than we do where their needs are and how to best meet them. But Bishop David insisted that, JC, you need to come meet the people. You need to come see the place. And so he finally, along with a little help from me, decided that he would go on this mission trip, and it has profoundly impacted him. And as soon as we got in country, his devotion really opened the door for the whole rest of the week, that it's all about not just sending money, but putting yourself out there, putting your faith out there, and putting it in action. What James says is very clear. Can you imagine how ridiculous it is? Just think about this. How ridiculous is it if we just tell somebody that is starving, they haven't had a meal in days, not because they're fasting, because there's no food, and you're just going to walk up to them and want to share the gospel of Jesus Christ with them, but you're not going to feed them. You're just going to tell them, just be full. Just pretend like you had a great breakfast. And just be full, and let me share you the gospel of Jesus Christ. Let me tell you how Jesus will meet your every need according to his riches and glory. Oh, you need to eat. Well, yeah, Jesus will take care of that later. You see how ridiculous that sounds? Jesus will take care of that later. I mean, we can't speak out of both sides of our mouth. We can't 1 minute say that our God can meet all of your needs according to his riches and glory, that he will provide for you. Our God is Jehovah Jireh, the great provider, that our God can do all this. And you're trying to convince this person to follow your God, your Jesus Christ. And the whole while you're trying to tell him that this is going to happen, you're not going to help feed him at all. He's freezing. He's very cold. There were great differences in our temperatures here and there, but thank God the whole time we were in Kenya, it was like 72 degrees all day and get down about 59 at night. We loved it. It was wonderful for us, but they were freezing because they're not used to even those cooler temperatures. And yet they have to have special blankets that they usually wear around them. The tribal people do, and many other Kenyans do as well. And they wear heavy coats and things. What if they were shivering in the cold, and I tell them, just be warm? Oh, by the way, let me tell you about Jesus. Well, his teeth's chattering, he's shuddering, he's shaking because of the cold, and we don't do anything to help him get warm. We just tell him to be warm and be fed, and then we try to share the gospel of Jesus Christ with him. Do you see? You see what James says? Now he doesn't go on about this for very long. He talks a little bit about the rest of chapter 2 there, but his whole thing is, our faith has to have action. You know, our faith in Christ sometimes requires us to step out in faith and to step out with action, to actually do something about their issues while we share them the gospel of Jesus Christ. We had a wonderful opportunity, and the team was not prepared in advance to do any tangible physical work there in Kenya. We were there at the request of the missionary to build relationships with the people of Kenya. He wanted us to see them, for them to see us, to touch us, to feel us, and for us to see their lives as they exist today in Kenya and how that fits in with our missions in the gospel of Jesus Christ in our church, Crane Eater Church. What have we been doing? What can we do? And what can we do more as individuals and collectively as a church? And so that was the whole purpose behind that. And so we were blessed to go to a school that was a government-built school that was really predicated upon the Bishop David, the missionary, had used social media and the power of the spoken word and more or less shamed the government of Kenya into building a school out in this remote region of the countryside that had no school, not even a school within a 2 or 3 mile walking distance. And that's about the most that any child can do. They're walking, some of them, 2 to 3 miles every morning to get to school. In other words, a human person normally walks at a normal speed of about 3 miles an hour. So that means it would take these children an hour or longer every morning and every afternoon to walk to school. That sounds like the old days in America, doesn't it? The old rural days in Appalachia areas where children had to walk great distances, and the joke is they had to walk in snow up to their hips, up and back, that kind of joke. But it was serious in that day and time about them walking. That was before we had school buses picking up children and things like that. And so he kind of got these buildings built, but here's the problem. The government of Kenya believes that the parents ought to feed the children, not the school system. So they don't feed those children. And so some of them, that was the only meal they get in the day. The only meal they get all day was at this school. And GOA Kenya actually had contracted with this school, and they said, we're going to provide the meals for these children. And so they had bought food for these kids, and the food ran out because here's what happened. They planned for 300 kids, and as soon as the word gets out that the school has food, if the children will come to school to get an education, they all go. So their number went from 300 to 500, and their food ran out quicker than they anticipated. And it happened right as the week that we got there. And so our team, God bless their hearts, they decided it was on their heart to try to raise funds out of the spare cash that we all had on us at the time. And we were able to raise almost $1,200 to buy rice and beans and some cooking oil and some salt so that school could provide that one lunch a day until the end of the school year in August. And so we have pictures that we will share as we do our testimonies of that the mission team did there on the spot. You know what you call that? I'll tell you what James calls that. He calls it faith in action. And so we see here that that's how God works. He works on our hearts. And in the middle of that country, and we were not prepared to do that, but we scraped up all the money we could get in shillings and U.S. dollars that we had, and the team just couldn't wait to give that money to buy that stuff. And so we were able, along with the help of Brother Timothy there, Bishop David's son, he was a tremendous help for us, him and Brother Joe, who drove the vans for us and took us and did the whole logistics for our team. It was wonderful, but they decided to do that, and he had to make some phone calls, and that pastor whose church is right next to the school, he's the one that built the church first and started getting the people to come and realize they had no way to get an education. That pastor went that Saturday, this was on a Friday, he went Saturday and picked up that food and was taking it to the school on Monday morning for them to have meals and to start having meals again until the end of the school year. That's faith in action. That's why we do missions work. We do have a commission from Jesus Christ to go ye into all the earth and to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ. Now, we have bishops in country that speak the local native tongues, and they do a much better job at sharing the gospel, but they can't do it alone. They need the help of Christians everywhere. And it's not just the United States. GOA Switzerland is giving more financial needs to this mission of GOA than even the GOA USA teams are. So it's not just the USA, it's not just us. All of our churches. We had other churches in Gordon County go on mission trips to Montana this week, the same week we were gone. We have other mission teams from other churches going all over the world. That's what Jesus tells us to do as Christians. Now, he may not call you to be a missionary in Kenya full time. He might. Some Church of God ministers have done that. They've given their entire lives and lived their lives in Africa for over 30 years and adopted African children. Some do that. Sometimes God may call you to do that. But if he doesn't, here's what he does call us to do in James, is put our faith in action. Put our faith in action. We're going to be asking you as individual members of Crane Eater and as well as the church to step up our abilities to help spread the gospel of Jesus Christ and to go to the mission fields and to see the work of Christ and share the love of Christ yourself. I had the opportunity. These people yielded their churches to me. They'd never seen me before in their life. Some of these children had never seen a white person in their life. They'd never seen a blonde-haired woman like Donna. They just wanted to touch Cheyenne's hair because it was long and straight. They've never seen such a thing. God allowed us to have that experience to grow us spiritually and to help them and to grow them as well. And we're going to be asking everyone to pray fervently about this. We can do things individually. You can give to a specific project that you want to do, like building a chicken coop for one of the children's schools, children's houses for orphanages. They try to raise their own crops. They try to milk their own cows. They raise their own chickens so they can be self-sustaining in their food sources. But they need help getting started. They need somebody to buy them a cow, to buy some chickens. And we can do those things, and it is relatively inexpensive for us. You'll be amazed if you didn't go out to eat 1 week, how much that money could do for the mission field. You can sponsor children for what we go out to Longhorns and spend on one meal. You can sponsor a child's food for a whole month on the mission field. We're going to be sharing a lot of this as we go forward because I feel it on my heart. Crane Eater has always been a mission-minded church. We have placards and awards all in our church where we have donated monies to mission concepts for the Church of God over many years. And many times we were the first place runner in giving. And we even in our infancy, when we were just a small old rock church, we built a church in Central America. Even back then, Crane Eater was mission-minded. And missions is a very important of the Great Commission that Christ gives us. And I hope you got something from this today. Please go back and read chapter 2 of James, verses 14 through the verses 26 at the end. And think about how we can put our faith in action. This was I've been on mission trips before, and I know how impactful they are to the people that go. And sometimes it's hard for us to articulate that. But I want you to be in prayer about that. Maybe next year. Maybe it's time for you to go next year. Maybe there's some things you can do between now and next year that will change the lives of people in another country. And in that change, we're sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ with them, which is the Great Commission. You know what I found out about the Great Commission? He doesn't tell us to do something till they get saved. You see, that's not our responsibility. That's between that person and God. What he tells us to do is go and tell. Go and tell. Go and tell. So we do that, and we leave it with God as to what that word does in that person's heart, and he gets them saved. So I hope you receive something from that. That's really part of the pastor's heart. It really is. Missions is touching the lives of millions all over this world for the gospel of Jesus Christ. And isn't that what it's all about? It is. God bless you, and have a wonderful week.